And a very good evening. You're listening to KXLU Los Angeles, and the program is Center Stage. Joining us now in studio to talk about his new film, Oh My God, we have Peter Rodger. Do you think this film might challenge or threaten some?
Yeah, I do. I'm asking a question that's been asked for a long time, and the whole point is maybe to challenge people to start a discussion. You know, I was really frustrated by the childish schoolyard mentality that permeates this world, you know, especially after 9/11, where you have, you know, grown men flying airplanes into buildings. Excuse me.
Use some water?
No, I'm good. Flying airplanes into buildings, shouting, you know, God is great, where you have young women and young men blowing themselves up to buy themselves a place into heaven, where you have the leader of the free world who said in 2003 to the BBC, I invaded Iraq because God told me to. I call it the my God is greater than your God syndrome. I mean, we're in an age now where we should be more tolerant of human beings and understand that, you know, using God's name to further our own agendas is probably not the best course of action. And I think this is the big problem that's happening in the world. I really do. And I think it's about time people took an individual responsibility to do something about it. And this is why I made this film. Hopefully by asking people what this entity that goes by the name of God means to them, we can understand their cultures and realize that we're much more the same. And we don't need to go around knocking other people down. If you look on the base level of, and you talk to Israelis on the street and you talk to the Palestinians, they're human beings and they want peace. It's what happens when the politicians get in the way and it becomes bigger than the sum of all the parts of what everybody wants on the ground, and you have all these problems. That conflict is a conflict of land, of money, and mainly emotion. And, you know, it's really why I asked the question, what is God? When so many of these actions are being done which are completely contrary to what the prophets of all the three monotheistic religions preached in the first place, completely contrary to what the indigenous populations around the world have been practicing for thousands and thousands of years, completely contrary to the polytheistic religions that exist today. And it's mind-boggling. I think that we have, as human beings, a personal responsibility. There's somebody who says in the film, Chandy Duke Hefner, she says, if each one of us does one good act each day, we can lilt this world into a better place. We can actually change things by taking it on personally, not as a group, not by waiting for our neighbor to do something, but ourselves. And if each one of us does that, it will change. And I mean, I always cite this example. If everybody in China jumped up at the same time, and 1.3 billion of them, there would be a 7.9 Richter scale earthquake. It doesn't matter. Take time out of the equation. If we individually do things ourselves which are good and kind and tolerant towards each other, instead of increasing conflict and pushing other people away, this world will get to the place that the prophets and everybody and people have, you know, would like it to be. And I think that that is our social responsibility as human beings.
Tell me about your trip to the Himalayas.
I have to say that traveling to the Himalayas was the most incredible experience. Tolkien was inspired by the Himalayas when he wrote Lord of the Rings. It is that magical place. It is the misty mountains. It also is elevated high above, you know, the clouds. The air is thin. People live much longer up there. There seems to be a different way of life. It's very peaceful. You can hear the silence. There are no jets. It's an exquisite place. I wanted to go there because obviously I wanted to put across Buddhism. It was particularly impossible for me to go to Tibet for, unfortunately, for political reasons, for the kind of content that I was shooting. So I went to Ladakh, which is known as Little Tibet, which is actually in the northern part of India. Very similar, very beautiful, fantastic monasteries. These people have a different way of life, a different way of looking at things. I learnt so much from the Buddhist philosophy. It is a philosophy, it's not a religion. And I was just also there because I wanted to shoot the world as a beautiful place. And it didn't occur to me until after I'd cut the film that what I was doing with my camera was actually paying homage to what some people could refer to as God, the beauty of this planet, the beauty of the look in a child's eye, the beauty of a portrait of an old man or a cuddle or somebody in pain even, the beauty of landscapes and light and clouds and rain and whatever. It's all there for us. And the Himalayas was probably one of the most picturesque places I've been to.
Why do you think this is the time now? Is it that there is so much uncertainty in the world that people want to have an answer? They want to look to something to believe in or to rekindle their belief in something?
I think as a result of communication. I think as a result of us being able to access how other people think and getting confused about it, and also reacting in sort of different ways. History has taught us about conflict in the last 100 years. I mean, the last century was full of it. History has been full of it. And now I think people are questioning themselves. There's also a freedom of speech, especially in this country, where people are allowed to think for themselves and they're not, they're being told what to think by totalitarian societies. We're living in a period that we mustn't mess up. We're living in a period where we can actually ask these questions, where we can be who we want to be. We are allowed to think what we're allowed to think now, probably for the first time in history, collectively. This pushes people apart, but it also brings people closer together. And that's what I want to do with this film. And I think that also, everywhere you look, even from reading like Dan Brown's latest book, it's noetic science, books like Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens, and then the battle of those who are perhaps more religious against science. It's all great dialogue, and I think that dialogue and discussion is what is needed to happen to make the world go in the direction that it should do. And I think it's happening. And I think if you look at other things like the Kalug from in Hinduism, which is a period of time that was prophesized, and you look at the end of days in the Bible, whatever you want to do, whatever book you read into, we're coming to that period. The whole 2012 syndrome, is at the end of the world or the beginning of something new? These are all great questions. People are talking about it. People are becoming more aware of their own consciousness and their place on this earth, and it's extremely healthy.
Ultimately, what do you think is the message that you received from this project?
Let all our karmas run over our dogmas. Let us understand that we are in control of our life much more than we might think it is. Do good things and understand. If you're religious, read your book. Understand what it is from the bottom up, and don't rely on other human beings to tell you what it is. Don't rely on people who might have hidden agendas to manipulate or to actually translate your book for you. Read it for yourself. And, the big sort of conflicts actually come from the three monotheistic religions to a degree, and you can boil them down pretty simply. I think for Judaism, it's the Ten Commandments. What a great code of practice. Practice them. It doesn't say go and kill anybody or do anything like this. For Islam, it's the 5 pillars of Islam. Very similar to the Ten Commandments, It doesn't talk about going and killing people. And then you've got the New Testament, which I think you can sum up by Jesus Christ's Sermon on the Mount. It is a fantastic code of practice. So those I think you can sum it up with those codes of practice. I think that we are primitive little organisms on a big rock in a scary vacuum. We are driven by fear a lot of the time, and we're desperate to find something to hold onto. And I think the whole point about life is that you can hold on to something without pushing other people away. One of the most interesting things I found in this film was talking to Kanjo Tanaka, who is a Zen master. I found him in his temple in Kyoto in Japan. I walked in there. It was one of the most peaceful places in the world. And he said to me, we're already in paradise. We're here because we're already saved. It is our responsibility to realize that life is paradisical. He said, it's also hell for a lot of people. And his job as a Zen master is to teach those people that it's actually paradise and not hell, but to breathe, live, and enjoy life for what it is, and work by those codes of practices that are in every single one of the books that most of the religions worship today. And, you know, somebody once said to me, they said, yesterday's breath is memory, tomorrow's breath is contemplation, but the air in my lungs now is what is keeping me alive.
Thanks for tuning in. Just a reminder, you can hear Center Stage live every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on KXLU Los Angeles, also streaming on the net at www.kxlu.com. Until next time, this is Mark Gordon, and I'll see you Center Stage.